Hey guys, thanks so much for coming to listen to my speech. This is my narrative speech, so I basically just chose a meaningful moment from my life and I'm going to illustrate a point with it. So the title of my speech is Living a Good Story. I'm going to tell you about how running 26 miles changed my life and invite you to change yours. When I was 18, I decided to sign up for the Madison Marathon. I had just graduated high school that year and was taking a gap year to travel, make friends, grow in my faith, and explore my passions. For context, I had run my first half marathon at 15 and had run 2 other halves before doing my full marathon. I actually hated running at first. Out of all the forms of exercise I could do or ways I could spend my time, why would I choose this? But something in me wondered if I could be good at this thing that I hated. So I did a little research and for some reason chose to sign up for my first half in late July, blithely unaware that this was a terrible time to run my first race. Crossing that finish line, my heart rate was through the roof. My feet were completely numb from the heat. But then I signed up for another race and another. By the time I ran a full marathon in 2022, I was 18, and I had some confidence that I had the grit and mental strength to do hard things. But I'm realizing that I'm an extreme person and tend to go all in when I do something. When I achieve one goal, it seems to make sense to me if I can do something harder, to see if I can do something harder. So I trained for 4 months, spending hours on my feet, alone, in the sun, just running. Eventually, race day rolled around in late November. I set out my outfit, made a playlist, and set my alarm for 4:30 a.m. that Sunday. There were thousands of people at that starting line. The sun was rising in bursts of color over the Capitol building in Madison, and I could feel the bass of the music in my chest as I lined up near the starting line. The gun went off and people cheered and whooped as we, all 7,000-ish of us, began running. Those first 18 miles went by pretty quick. I don't remember much aside from how much urine was on the floor of the porta potty I stopped at. Then at mile 19, 20-ish, my AirPods died, and this is where the mental battle started, as I was now completely alone with my thoughts and still a little over 6 miles away from the finish line. But somehow the miles went by and I got back downtown. I remember seeing the Capitol and hearing the music at the finish line. I started crying, laughing, and running faster and finished it out. In retrospect, crossing that finish line was a pivotal moment for me. I remember seeing my friends and family's faces in the crowd as I took those final steps, and knowing that I had just done one of the hardest things that I had achieved up until that point. This race taught me many things, the importance of discipline over motivation, and how faithfulness produces results. I look back on this race regularly and think, if I could do that, then I can face this challenge too. I'd say one of my biggest takeaways was that usually the things which are most worthwhile in life are also the riskiest and the hardest. I was terrified to attempt running that race and fail, not to be able to cross the finish line and know that everyone else had seen me fail. But it was worth the risk because I knew if I finished that race, I had shown myself what I was truly capable of. You can dream about traveling to that country, shooting your shot with that girl, getting that job, but without real action, real change, real risk, none of it matters. Lately, I've been doing a lot of thinking about stories. What makes a great story? The same things which make a great life. A character who knows what they want, chasing after that thing despite the odds, and undergoing deep character transformation throughout the process and facing challenges along the way. Donald Miller, a New York Times best-selling memoirist, writes in his book, A Million Miles in 1,000 Years, I've wondered, though, if one of the reasons we fail to acknowledge the brilliance of life is because we don't want the responsibility inherent in that acknowledgement. We don't want to be characters in a story because characters have to move and breathe and face conflict with courage. And if life isn't remarkable, then we don't have to do any of that. We can be unwilling victims instead of grateful participants. We were not meant to be victims of our circumstances, swept to and fro by events in our lives until we eventually step into our graves. Instead, we are meant to live lives filled with meaning, adventure, and daringly stepping out and facing our fears because it's worth it. Signing up for a marathon launched me into the next chapter of my story, which has gone on to include adventures like serving the poor in South Africa, working in refugee camps in Lebanon, and so much more. So, where do you need to step out? Where do you need to just say yes? And where do you need to take the risk because it's worth it? Thank you guys.
Woo!